Good morning, I'm Lawrence from Keeler Permaculture farm and I'm here at my barn, and I just wanted to show you guys how I do my composting with the sheep manure and use it for many methods such as worm composting. I use it to mix with other manures and green manures to make a finished potting mix compost, or I use it for mulch around my trees. So I always clean out the barn by hand with a fork. My favourite fork is a 5-pronged metal fork with metal handle. You might be laughing along my favourite fork, but there are so many forks and it works much better with this one, okay, honestly. I prefer to do it by hand. If I had a tractor to clean the barn by tractor and flip the compost piles with the tractor, I'd probably have a big beer belly by now. So I enjoy doing it by hand because it keeps me in good shape. Before I get started, I just got to move these guys out. One of the things we really want to do is make sure we have a low parasite count in the sheep. So of course composting does kill these things, but it would be better to have healthy sheep and good quality manure in the first place. So these practices include prevention, so rotating them from field to field and letting the fields rest so that the parasites don't build up in the fields. The other thing is giving preventative natural remedies for deworming, things like pumpkin seeds, crushed garlic in water, olive leaves. Olive leaves are very good, and there's various other methods we use. And the other thing is we deworm them every 6 months, and after deworming they get moved to a clean house and a clean field. Now the sheep are out, we're just going to go through the first steps of making really good compost with sheep manure. Obviously you can buy fresh sheep manure, and if that's the case you can skip above and go to how we compost it. But otherwise, let's talk about how we make sure we have a good manure for composting. First of all, it's all about the bedding. Any compost is made from a mix of materials, and so what we want to do is start off with having that mix here in the bedding. So after I clean out the barn, we do a thick bedding with broom or maybe ferns, and these are things that we have available on the land and they have their own nutrient benefits. Then we cover it with hay, not straw, because in Portugal straw is GMO, and we don't want to use any GMO if we can to feed our sheep, or in our manure which goes to our garden which we eat. So we use hay. So this is from our neighbour's land. It's not the best quality hay. The sheep eat a bit in the trough, and then it gets spread around the floor every day. The idea is to completely cover the poo every day so sheep aren't sitting in their own poo and spreading parasites. So we do that, and then occasionally I put in here charcoal. We feed the sheep mimosa leaves, and after they eat the leaves, the branches we chuck here, and every now and then this gets burnt and turned to charcoal. We also get additional charcoal from some of the woodland areas where we have more wood to make charcoal with. We spread that charcoal in the barn, and that reduces the smell. It also absorbs nutrients, and the sheep break the charcoal up, and that's called biochar. So what we're going to do every month, we're going to have a nice bedding with sheep poo, biochar, ferns, broom and hay. And hay is dry grass, and it's lots and lots of different types of grass and weeds and things, all with different minerals. So I remove this once a month because that's about one month's worth makes a nice compost pile. And then we can clean the barn. I put lime down, and then we start all over again. So what I'm going to do quickly is just cover today's poo with some hay, and then I'm going to show you what we do with it next. So we've got here the 4 compost piles, and these are from 4 months. Each pile is 1 month's worth of manure from the barn, and you can see this one is much bigger. As we flip them and it decomposes, they get smaller. So this first one we've just dumped there, and we'll turn that into a cube. After we turn it, and after 2 weeks, it will look like this pile. You see, it's shrunk, it's composted. When we flip it, The outside of the pile goes to the inside and the inside to the outside. And the idea is that everything gets a turn being composted by bacteria. The stuff on the outside doesn't get a chance for that. And we then add water from the lake in buckets each time we flip. And then after a few weeks we flip again. Like this, shrunk again. And then after a few weeks we do it again. So actually, although this is the 4th pile, it's not 4 flips. This has had about 8 flips. So this gives you a nice finished compost. The outside's a bit crusty, but inside will be finished. So you can see that anything near the compost piles is longer grass. It's much, much longer grass. We have 2 options now. This is this finished compost. We have to keep turning it to keep the microbial life alive. So but the thing is, the compost pile shrunk so much, it's too small now. So what we need to do to keep the microbial life alive is combine the last 2 piles, or we use it. So we're gonna combine it, and then we'll start using it from the bigger pile. That way we got one big pile and not a small pile, because the small pile is no good to us. So I will take some of this over to my worm farms to feed the worms. I'll take some of this to my chicken system to have it finished into a finished compost. And also I'll use this to mulch around some of the vines and trees we planted that I haven't yet mulched. It's really good for mulch. Yeah, probably the next pile I'm going to take for the summer vegetables. You might think, isn't it easier just to clean out the barn with the tractor, leave a big pile for a couple of years? Yes, but then you have biomass with some nutrients. But what we want is compost that's high in microbial life and add that life to the soil. You have bacteria decomposers and fungi decomposers, and basically they break down the organic matter, and they need oxygen and moisture to do that. So when you make a pile, they'll be using up all the oxygen and creating carbon dioxide. So you need to flip the pile so that the bacteria doesn't die and continues to multiply. And then the more times you flip the pile, the more it's going to break down and the better compost you're going to get. But you do need to keep breaking it down, because the bacteria and fungi, or especially the bacteria, they thrive at about 40 degrees and they start breaking down the compost. But they create carbon dioxide and heat, and that actually kills them. But as it gets warmer, another type of bacteria comes in that thrives in that temperature, and they multiply and they break down the compost pile faster. But they create even more heat, which kills them off, and then another type of bacteria comes in and breaks down the compost pile even faster. But then they create even more heat and use up all the oxygen in the pile. So what you have to do is turn the pile to aerate it, and then the bacteria and fungi can start to thrive again. And then you just keep doing this. So at a minimum, every 2 weeks, the pile should be turned. You can do it more frequently to get compost quicker, but ideally what I do is turn the pile every 2 weeks. I'm working with many compost piles, so I just do it every 2 weeks. And once it's ready, I either have to use it or keep flipping it to keep the microbes alive. We need microbes in the soil. They break down nutrients into elements that plants and trees can absorb, and also there is symbiotic microbes that help transfer nutrients to plants. So we want to make compost that's high in life. I'm going to make all these videos on composting at some point. I really like to share it. I really enjoy doing it. Also, if you live locally, you're welcome to get in contact and come and help me with the composting in exchange for some of the manure or finished compost. I always love to have some help, and I know that other people appreciate good quality compost. So thank you very much, and please subscribe.